On a scale from 1 to 100%, how much do you think you know yourself?
If you could give one piece of stoic advice to our listeners.
Life is already full of surprises. I really hope the surprise is not you.
In a world that's obsessed with achievement and external validation, how does stoicism help us find contentment and purpose?
As a leader, as a person, do you know your values? Ideally, you should say yes.
Welcome to the Being Human podcast with Amelia and Jez Francis. Brought to you by Just Add Water.
Hello and welcome back to the Being Human podcast with me, Jez Francis.
And with me, Amelia Vegting. This is the podcast where with special guests we continue to explore what it means to be human in this world we find ourselves living in.
So Amelia, it's brilliant to be back in the studio after a short break to gather our heads ready for this next series.
Yeah, what are you looking forward to most about the podcast continuing?
I love the human stories our guests share with us and how they make me feel and what I learn each time we record an episode. I find the whole experience connects me to other people, to something sacred and spiritual, which feels really comforting in a world where, you know, division and intolerance feel like they're on the rise. This is particularly relevant, perhaps, given the guest and conversation that we've lined up for this episode, but more on that in a moment. What about you, Amelia? What are you excited about?
Well, I'm absolutely thrilled to be doing this again. I think it's a real treat to have this as part of our, working week. It really doesn't feel like we're at work when we're here together, having really great conversations with our wonderful guests, sort of embracing that importance of play within our work week.
That is very true.
I also love learning, and doing this podcast means that I feel that we're being continuously challenged on what we know by inviting different people to share their perspectives and personal experiences. So I think I feel richer from the conversations that we've had so far. And just one final thing, I love the fact that even though we've recorded, 2 years worth of content, that the list of subjects that we can just explore seems to grow and grow and grow. Each conversation that we have sparks another idea. So it's really exciting to be thinking about some of the conversations that are coming up this 2025.
I've got an idea. To switch things up for the first episode back, shall we bring my favourite section up to the front end of the podcast rather than keeping the listeners waiting?
What you really mean to say is you wouldn't agree to doing a third series unless on the first episode we moved your brilliant boring stories to the beginning.
You know me too well.
Boring things about me.
Introducing Boring Things About Me, the part of the podcast where we celebrate the bland and beautiful moments that make up, if we're perfectly honest, 90% of all of our lives. Should I kick us off today, Jez?
Go on then, go for it.
So the flat that I have is single glazed windows, and dampness has been an issue that is there before. Our bathroom doesn't have a window, so, there's just moisture everywhere. So I've been looking for solutions recently and have managed, with some back and forth emailing, to persuade a slightly reluctant landlord to buy our flat a dehumidifier.
Excellent.
Yes. And it is safe to say that I have become absolutely obsessed. So it's actually embarrassing how excited I get ready to turn it on, whether it's by the washing for a couple of hours or just in my room, leaving it for a while. And then the fascination and excitement of when you take the sort of back container off and pour the water away, and how much... every time when I empty that, I'm amazed at how much moisture it's managed to capture out of the air. And an added bonus being that our clothes are drying much quicker. So I have to say I couldn't recommend getting one enough.
I think you knew that I'd like that one. You did the satisfaction that comes from emptying the water, yeah.
But anyway, what dull story have you got for us today, Jez?
Well, you remember a few weeks back when you asked whether a word existed for that feeling you get when you bring... You bring leftovers from the night before into work for lunch. Is that mixture of pride and self-sufficiency?
Absolutely. That was a fab conversation.
If you recall, we asked the internet for a bit of help to come up with a word to describe that, to invent a word effectively. And we came up with tupperphoria.
Perfect word, I think, for that.
I got such a buzz from doing that that I've been inventing more words.
Oh, dear.
Okay.
What have we started?
So I'd like you to try and guess what these are.
Okay.
Pseudokudos.
Oh, Is this the sort of pride you get from completing a Sudoku?
Yeah, it's the feeling of triumph from computational mastery and immense relief upon successfully completing a particularly challenging Sudoku puzzle. What about this one then? Symphony. Any ideas?
No, I don't. With you, it could be absolutely anything.
So it's that fabulous blend of discovery, relief, and achievement experienced when you get hold of the last available seat on a crowded train.
Oh.
It's almost as if the universe has orchestrated a perfect moment for you. Okay, the last one.
Okay.
This is my favourite. Wind pocket.
Wind pocket. I have, again, absolutely no idea.
Okay, so this is that sudden rush of joy, surprise, and unexpected good fortune that you get when you discover a forgotten £10 note in a pocket
nice.
or a purse. Or it's as if the universe has gifted you a tiny, unexpected windfall from your past self. A wind pocket.
Brilliant. That's 3 new words for the vocab to start using. But I reckon that's enough of boringness from our lives. Let's get into our conversation for today. Would you do the honours of introducing our guest?
A behavioural change expert and executive coach with deep commercial and consultancy experience from a 30-year career in marketing and leadership roles across FMCG, pharma, retail, energy and consulting. Rodrigo's mission is to bring his endless energy, enthusiasm and expertise to elevate the skills and behaviours of teams across the globe and create more fulfilling personal and professional lives for the people he works with. Rodrigo holds an MBA from the University of North Carolina, a professional certificate in coaching from Henley Business School, and a psychology certificate from Yale University. In his personal time, you can find Rodrigo sailing, scuba diving, and spending time with his wife and daughter while seeking adventure around the world. A yearning for a more spiritual understanding of the world and his place in it, one that wasn't religious perhaps, led him to the philosophy of stoicism. Rodrigo Barreto, welcome to the Being Human podcast.
What a pleasure to be here. And hearing these words sounds almost like it's not me, is it? But thank you. Thank you very much. It is me, actually. It is me fully, but in some ways sounds so distant and so close to me, what you just said. So yes, thank you very much for having me.
We're going to ask you a couple of questions just to get to know you as a person a little bit better before we dive into the subjects of stoicism. So first one up, what is something surprising about you that most people don't know?
I think if I were to go back in time, I was nudged to be an engineer, lawyer, doctor. I would have scrapped all that and be an actor. I think my dream always wanted to be an actor, doing talk shows, doing a comedy troupe. And now I'm trying to catch up for that by doing some stand-up comedy here and there when I can.
Oh, cool.
But I think I would be an actor. I would dedicate my energy to be an actor and serve people that way.
Well, you'll have to let us know next time you're on. We shall come down and watch you. What's a small but maybe insignificant habit or moment that you experience that brings you joy, Rodrigo?
I've been trying, Jeremy, to perfect the poaching egg experience.
It's hard.
Every time I go to a nice, amazing restaurant, I said, how do you do it? You have to just, you throw a little bit. I'm like, yeah, okay, I tried. Then it becomes like a hurricane, doesn't work so much and goes all over the place. It's about vinegar. You put a little bit of vinegar. I'm like, okay, a bit of it. How much bit? There's a bit of it. Okay. So I've been on a journey to perfect a poached egg, and I'm close to it, but I still haven't found a way to make like a comet that is like the perfect white thing with little tail.
Oh, yes.
How far away do you think you are? How many more eggs do you have to go through before you think you're going to nail it?
How much work have the chickens got to do before we get there?
1,000 chickens probably, but I think, yeah.
Final one for you. If your life had a theme song, what would it be?
I'm thinking, Don't Worry, Be Happy from Bob McFerrin. Now that I understand myself more, I realize how many beliefs that are ingrained in on my subconscious about things that are how life is and the way to see things. And I just feel that the song almost gives me the motto I want to be, which is don't worry, be happy. Because worry, I don't think ever helped me in any shape or form in my life, because there was never a catastrophe that I avoided by being worried.
Yeah.
So you think about something that's going to happen, and that's probably a link to stoicism, the idea of bringing rationality. And I know I may be jumping ahead, but sometimes I think what Marcus Aurelius would do if he had to handle this, how he'd approach this challenge, this feedback, this comment, this difficult workshop, this difficult person I've encountered. So yeah, don't worry, be happy.
As someone that has a predisposition for worrying, I do know what you mean. It just leaks energy.
And it's a challenge because the rational part of you knows that there's nothing positive coming from worry unless you are using the worry to protect your family, yourself, which is almost never the case.
Yeah.
There's a wasted energy that can be transformed into positive.
I think it's a great observation. Before we head into the topic of Stoicism, Rodrigo, tell us, if you wouldn't mind, a little bit about your background and what life was like growing up for you.
I grew up in Copacabana in a very comfortable life, 3 blocks from the beach, which I always loved. And then very early on, one of my best friends said, why don't you come and do sailing? And I joined a sailing club when I was 7 years old. So I grew up sailing competitively, doing kind of championships around Brazil, some of them internationally.
Wow.
I went to a world championship in the US.
Amazing.
So from a hobby and lifestyle, always close to the sea, and developing an association with sun and sea equals health and nature and positive. And Copacabana is a very busy place that mixes rich people, poor people, middle people. It's a melting pot.
Yeah.
And from a professional perspective, Jeremy, probably, again, I think it's a developing world, maybe syndrome. You don't have the luxury that you have in countries like the UK, where I see people who did philosophy and now is a consultant for McKinsey, or someone who did Roman languages and now you're doing, I don't know, something else. You're like, how did you come up from Roma? So in Brazil, you almost have to choose your career very early on by choosing this area you want to study. And I was very strongly nudged to choose between engineering, law, or being a doctor. And I chose engineering as almost like from the least bad option.
Yeah.
So I grew up with this kind of very, I would say, conservative mindset that you have to work for a big company. You have to be successful, work hard, which I always did. But the acting part of me and the more free, the more fluid part of me just started flourishing more in the last 5-10 years. So I think it was interesting because I grew up in a very more serious professional, and I want to do an MBA to be a master's in business. I want to be a CMO. And then I realized I'm not getting even close to be a CMO. I'm getting better and better, getting promoted. That's great. But CMO sounds chief marketing officer. And now I know that I don't want to be a chief marketing officer. And I want to combine all that knowledge with my acting, my fluidity, my joy from people and human and being human.
Yeah. Was there a moment that realization became really clear to you, or is it just emerged over time?
I think my last corporate job in a company called Kimberly-Clark, working in a very great company, but very manufacturer driven. And I was hoping to become a marketing director in the company. And the comment was like, yeah, but you need to do some more marketing activation. I think, but I've done that in my, oh, but that's how it works in big corporates. I'm like, that's how it works in big corporates. So then I went through a moment, self-awareness journey of feeling almost like maybe I was not good enough, that maybe I'm never going to be a great CMO because I'm not good. And then that moment, I think, well, maybe I am good, but just not here.
Yeah.
And here, not Kimberly-Clark, but in the corporate environment that you have to do this and you have to do that. That was the moment where I thought maybe there's another way.
And I guess you've shared with us that recently you found your sort of map towards Stoicism and developing that passion. Rodrigo, how would you define Stoicism in simple terms for someone who's completely unfamiliar with it? And what drew you to it as a way of being?
So for me, I think Stoicism is a philosophy that focuses us on the idea, on the quest to have a virtuous life. How can you have a good life?
Yeah.
Which is very subjective, but is a philosophy to have a good life. And because of the word virtuous life, links the 4 virtues. So there's 4 virtues of Stoicism that I can share in a second. But those 4 virtues are the unlocking pillars for a virtuous life.
Yeah.
And what I love with the simplicity of it is that they are very simple, but like most things in life, very simple to conceptually understand, very hard to do it. Losing weight, very simple. Eat less. Yeah, I cannot do it. Why? Well, you know how to do it. So the issue is not the knowledge. is the discipline, the application of it. So
Yeah.
it's the idea that there's 4 virtues that if you follow them, and there's never like I've done it, is a constant quest to be a bit better, a bit more close to those 4 virtues and have them in equilibrium. If you do that, you have a virtuous life. And under that umbrella of the 4 virtues is this kind of mantra or this maybe controlling idea that focus on the things you can control and try to ignore everything else you cannot control and surrender to those things. So the ones you can control, you use the 4 virtues to live as 4 levers you can use as superpowers to navigate the controllables in your life.
So you've mentioned those 4 virtues. Could you sort of elaborate on those and explain them to us, please?
Of course. One of them is courage. And courage here is not about I am the alpha male or I'm the brave person who's going to stab bang on the table. That's my way. Is the courage to do things that sometimes are not popular, but is right. Is the courage to follow your dreams. Is the courage to say, this is not working for me, but it's safe. Well, to go to unsafe, you need courage.
Yeah.
It's the courage to say something difficult. It's the courage to have a difficult conversation. It's the courage to ask for more. It's the courage to love you more. There's like I can go left, right, center, corporate, personal, leadership, non-leadership, parenthood, kids.
Yeah.
Courage.
Yeah.
The courage to be yourself and follow your instincts. The next one is wisdom. And hopefully you can start seeing the connections. To be courageous and be brave to do X, you have to have the knowledge that X is good for you or bad or should be Y. Know things before saying something.
Yeah.
Get the facts before assuming. Don't judge before knowing all the facts, or not judge ever. But if you had to make a judgment call, gather the right facts first. Don't say things that are not going to help anyone. Just one more thing on knowledge. If I were to say one thing about knowledge, it would be know yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is often the hardest. The hardest bit.
I'm glad you said that. I'm going to ask you a question to both of you. On a scale from 1 to 100%, how much do you think you know yourself, Jeremy?
Oh, what a question. 20% maybe?
Yeah, it's got to be low. I was going somewhere between about 30. Still feel like I've got a lot more to learn. That's 100% for sure.
I'd like to think I know myself better than that, but the reality is I don't. Yeah.
So if you had the magic wand and you would like to know yourself more, or if you can set the right self-knowledge level on the same scale, where would you like to be ideally?
I don't think I'd want to be at 100. I think there's something still quite nice about unknowing or discovering. Maybe 70, flip it the other way.
It would be nice, wouldn't it, I think, to have a sense of how you might react to a situation at least half the time. But I agree with you. There's something about the mystery and the joy and the learning opportunities that can come from the newness of things and the newness of your emotional reaction to things. It's a great question.
Yeah, really good question.
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm so happy that you actually answered these questions, because that's the most of the time that I ask this. Well, majority of the time I ask this question, I get the similar answer, in the sense that most people don't want to know 100%. And I ask why, and there's always like, well, there's some surprise element. And I remember when I first had this question asked to me, and this leadership professor was telling me, so can I tell you something, Rodrigo? Life is already full of surprises and mysteries. I really hope the surprise is not you. So I think on that point, the idea, ideally, and I think, Jeremy, you're spot on, the idea of we are a work in progress.
Yeah.
But if we can aim, I think, to get to 100%, might never happen. But the closer you can get, you then allow the things in life you're going to throw at all of us, be it COVID, technology disruptions, a client who said, no, I don't want your project, something that went wrong, a newness in the family, a death, something that happens. Hopefully, you know yourself to say, I know this is going to trigger me.
Makes you more resilient, right?
Make you more resilient.
Yeah.
Because you're more prepared to handle the things that are going to come to you, because the surprise will be there. But just going back to the virtues, the next one is justice. And justice, I don't mean the tribunal and the court of justice, but the idea of being fair to people, being kind, doing the right thing, despite sometimes not being popular. And again, I'm going to continue to make those red thread connections. I need to know what fair looks like for you too in this context. If you are an HR business partner and you want to give a rating of 5 out of 5 to an employee, but the boss is boss. His boss doesn't like that person, thinks should be a 3, but everyone thinks should be a 5. The easy thing would be like, yeah, the big boss wants 3, let's do 3 because that's the big boss. Well, but he deserves a 5.
Yeah.
Everyone who works with him, his clients, his team, I need to be courageous to say to the big boss, sorry, I'm going to give him a 5.
They are interlinked, aren't they? The point you made, that sometimes, to be fair, you need courage. Yeah.
And the final one, I think, is a icing on the cake, not as a final one, but complements the first 3, which is temperance, which is the kind of the more classical way they talked about, but a easier way to think about is balance, self-measurement, and kind of same thing. Let's keep the same maybe example. You want to give a 5, big boss thing is a 3 rating performance. You think is a 5 is the right thing to do. So you think is justice, is fair to give a 5.
Mm-hmm.
You have the knowledge to understand how to navigate talking to the big boss and the employee and the colleagues. You have to have the wisdom to do that. You have to have the courage to then perhaps face the big boss, and the measurement in how you're going to do it. You're going to give 5 to everyone now. Now you open the precedent. So what is the measured way to approach the situation? Maybe don't give a 5, but give a bonus. And again, I'm stuck on this example, but the idea of thinking, being measured.
Yeah.
If you want to be a great human, a great leader, you cannot be amazingly intelligent, but don't have empathy. You cannot be the super fit Ironman, physical fitness, but you're not spiritually fit and you don't believe in anything and your life is a bit like no purpose. So you need to have this balance to not go all out left, go all out right, and have this kind of almost this gravity point where you navigate more or less in a measured way.
Yeah, navigation was what was coming to mind as you were talking then. Something to keep you exploring, but on a track at the same time towards what you want to go to. So just on that, how do these 4 virtues help us navigate, the challenges of modern life? So stress, looking at everything going on in the world right now, uncertainty, work-life balance, how can stoicism help us with these challenges?
That's such a gigantic question, and it can be done. No,
a whole podcast episode on itself.
Yeah, it's a great question, and there's not a one answer. There's multiple answers. I think if you look at, first of all, the controlling idea, navigating stress, COVID, life, technology disruption, the umbrella controlling idea is what can I control and what I cannot control. So that requires maybe the first filtering to navigate life in a bit more virtuous life is, can I control this? I have a wedding planned for a month from now in Santorini, beautiful way. It might rain. Is there anything I can do about that? Well, I cannot. There's nothing. There's no point. Can I control the outcome of this? I cannot control. Well, I cannot control how the person is going to react, but I can control how I'm going to prepare for it. So that's the first thing I would say.
Yeah.
Then the second thing, probably I would start using the virtue of, and they're not in right order. There's no order, but I would always start with the wisdom one, to say, okay, as a wise person, what Marcus Aurelius would do in a situation that I can control, or what my values are. So when I run workshops on this topic, one of the exercises we do, you mentioned the word values, is, do you know your values as a leader, as a person, as a human being? Are you clear on your values? If somebody says, Amelia, do you know your values? Ideally, you should say yes. Are those 3 values? Live, love, and learn. Or family, honesty, and collaborate. Something.
Yeah.
So knowing your values, wisdom, probably is the foundation to say, this and this thing happened to me. Are they aligned to my values, or they are disaligned to my values? Or this decision I have to make to go left or right, is going left more aligned to my values or not? That is probably the second filtering. What is the thing I can control? Within the things I can control, my values, what I believe in, what do I love? Is this aligned to what I love? And therefore, should I go left, right, center, backwards? What do I do? Then the next one will be muster the courage to do it, even though it might be difficult, might be nerve-wracking, might be butterfly creating experiences, but you know that is the right thing to do because it's aligned to your values. And then you borrow the justice and say, it's the right thing to do. The right thing to do now is stop this and say, boss, partner, daughter, brother, best friend, time out. I have butterflies like crazy, but I need to say this. Let's have a discussion. So face the things. The best way through things is through it. And sometimes the obstacle becomes the way. That's one other of the Stoics' virtues, is kind of the idea that the obstacle is the way. And then looking at, again, reflection and thinking, how can I do this in a measured way? I think I need to go left because this challenge came to my life. It's aligned to my values, wisdom. I'm going to muster the courage to go left despite being nerve-wracking. So I need the courage. Now the temperance. Do I go all out? Do I sell my house? Do I quit my job? Maybe not. Take a sabbatical. Maybe take a 2-week off. Maybe try it. Maybe experiment. So don't just throw the baby out of the bathwater and experiment.
Listening to you describe Stoicism, I think there's a lot of people that perhaps believe or think that a Stoic is allowed to just be blown around by the wind or moved around by the tides and just accepts what happens to them. Can a Stoic outlook on life and ambition, for example, coexist? Or how do they coexist? In a world where we validate ourselves, that's obsessed with achievement and external validation, how does Stoicism help us find contentment and purpose?
Yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful point. I think that Stoicism does not reject ambition. It refines it. It's not about abandoning your goals, your big, hairy goals, but pursuing them in a virtuous way, in a resilient way, bringing things to perspective, not attaching the outcome too much to define who you are.
Yeah.
Because you can have an ambition. I want to be a CMO in 10 years. So now you are putting on the external environment, because becoming a CMO, a CEO, the head of the hospital.
Yeah, you don't have 100% control over that.
No,
yeah, exactly.
You have some control. You can do PhDs, you can study, you can write papers, but there's politics, there's luck, there is a lot of things. So it's a bit of a trap to say, I want to be X or have 6 million pounds by when I'm 45. Then if you don't have it, now you're doomed. You feel like a failure. So again, I don't think it's diminishing the ambition. I don't think it's not having goals and just accepting day by day. It's quite the opposite. I think on the meditations book, I think it's Marcus Aurelius, he talks about, I don't think it's him or about Seneca, that he enjoys the luxuries, the pleasures, the good things in life, the great wines, but he doesn't miss it.
And particularly to goals that require external influence as well to make them a reality. I think that's back to one of the points you made earlier on about focusing on what you can control and knowing the difference between what you can control and what you can't control, I guess, is foundational, right?
I think it was Epictetus, one of the Stoics, who used to frequently, he would sleep on the floor, turn off the heating, be cold, thirsty for one night, as a bit of a mini practice. Say, is that what I'm fearing for? Is that bad? If I have to be like this forever, is that horrible? It's almost like, not losing touch with not having things you think you have. Because if you think, oh yeah, I'm taking for granted, I have a house, heating, cold, hot shower, I have a job, I have money to buy food. What happens if that's taken away from you?
Yeah.
If you associate happiness equals all that, means that one day, if you go to a hardship and you cannot have that, you're miserable. So he practices not having those things just to keep him a bit close to the proximity to say, hey, it's not horrible.
Yeah, keeping you grounded.
I would prefer not go there. Keep you grounded.
So how have you been applying Stoicism to some of the work that you design and deliver for your clients?
I'm trying more and more to do this well, Amelia, but it's not easy. And I think what I'm trying to do, probably the baby steps that I'm now, is every single morning, I have this thing that I strongly recommend. It's called a Daily Stoic, written by Ryan Holiday, which is one of the Stoics guys who love Stoicism. But I try to use the Daily Stoic as my setting the day and the intention for how I'm going this to be. I'm trying to use, I think I mentioned in the beginning, maybe when I have challenges, I think what Marcus Aurelius would do, what a rational person would do. I moved to a new house now in July, and I have this kind of lead pipe. Should I change the pipe? It's not fine. It's not fine. Well, you should change the pipe. Of course, you have to change. You see different sources. You think, what do I do?
Yeah.
And I think, what a rational Stoic would do? Knowledge. Let me understand more. I think I need more information. Yeah, I meet a client. I just met a client this morning. Oh, I have a challenge. Our team is not collaborating. And it's about collaboration. I'm sure it's this collaboration because it's different cultures. I'm like, Okay, that's one point of view. Stoic would try to go a bit more deep on the knowledge. Do I understand exactly what the issue is, or I think it's collaboration? Yeah, it's ways of working. What about ways of working? Is the way people talk? Is the culture? Is the amount of time they meet? So I'm trying to be succinct. I think really is daily intentions and reflection points throughout the day, perhaps the week, using shortcuts like what Marcus Aurelius do, or every time I have a big thing that kind of triggers a big decision, a big point, a big choice, I think, okay, what is the measured way to do that? Should I just jump in the solution? Do I pause a little bit? There's another guy that I follow that I love that talks about the idea, especially when you give suggestions to people and advice, be a bit lazy. Don't just jump in. Oh, really? Oh, so you're struggling with, okay. Allow a bit of space.
Interesting.
So I think I'm trying to pepper in my life, especially when something triggers. I have to have something happen to me. Pause. Moderation here.
But I think what you're saying about that pause, and also, I guess, having those questions to ask yourself at various times of a day, whether it's in a situation that has popped up, like you say, you're triggered and you suddenly feel that tummy feeling, or something isn't sitting right because perhaps it's, not aligning with the person that you are, and you physically get those feelings, but it's at those moments, what are, I guess, those questions from the 4 virtues of, have I got all the knowledge about this that I could, or, have I got enough? Do I need to go and find more? And, working through all those layers, or is this, well, as you say, to start off with, is this even in my control? I think that as a practice is really interesting to have as a reference, so that you start registering some of that and seeing whether it's rational, or if perhaps you do need to take 5 minutes and have a think about them.
I was going to ask you, so if people are interested in sort of exploring stoicism and building some practices into their daily lives, what kind of thing could you recommend?
Following this guy, Ryan Holiday.
Ryan Holiday.
Yeah.
Ryan Holiday.
Yeah.
So he is someone who's been studying and writing about stoicism in the US. He's American. He wrote many books, and he tries to, for each of the virtues, there's a book in each of the books. It's very interesting. I'm using some of his initial inspiration to translate to what I know, to marketing, to leadership, to behavior change, to the world of corporate. He's doing that more as a philosophy. So Ryan Holiday. The second thing is the idea of the daily stoic, which again coming from him, but it's a daily diary to look at the daily stoics. And then thirdly, I would buy the book Meditations from Marcus Aurelius, which probably is if you love the idea of stoic, there's many, many books, but Meditations is probably the most accurate reflection of someone who was a stoic in a very powerful position, writing stoicism and his reflections. And I think what I like about Meditations, and because it was Marcus Aurelius, that's why it's so important, is not someone who never worked, who was in the mountain, waking up and having natural food from the garden, watching a river and writing about life.
Yeah.
He was in the middle of the buzz, of craziness, leading a country, being attacked by other nations, trying to rule the world, having the Senate to work with, having personalities, he lost, I think, 2 or 3 kids, he had many, with the plague. So he was afflicted probably more than most of us.
Yeah, it makes it more relatable.
Yeah, and yet he was thinking, this is what I'm going to focus on. So he's a kind of a very, 2,000 years old, or how many years old, which I think sometimes is so fresh.
I love the idea also that you rise each day, or you wake each day and try and find some time for pause and reflect. I think the idea of pause and reflection and stepping back is and considering some of the questions that you've posed us, and the questions that those 4 virtues ask of us.
Yeah.
What does a good life mean for me today? What does a good life look like today? Through those 4 lenses, and just having a moment to do that, I think, could be incredibly powerful.
To kind of round us off, if you could give one piece of stoic advice to our listeners, what would it be?
Know yourself. Be in touch with the good, the bad, the ugly, because we all have our things, and sometimes it's tiring knowing yourself, because you realize things you're like, oh yeah, I have the shortcoming here. But then again, the balance and the temperance to think about, maybe I'm not leaving too much space, but I'm bringing enthusiasm. Yeah, maybe sometimes I speak too fast, but I have a lot of energy. And maybe sometimes I go too fast and don't leave a pause, but also I'm always kind of pushing things. So it's kind of the self-reflection to always not exhausting yourself, but in this constant micro improvements, which even that has a balance. I hear sometimes, I have to grow with a company. Let's grow. What's the growth target? Do you have to grow all the time? So growing. When do you stop?
Yeah.
So I think my wrap-up advice would be, the more you can understand yourself and love yourself and think, yeah, I know. I have some things that I have an accent. I live in the UK. Should I try to pretend? Oh, hello. And then, oh dear. Do I do that? Well, maybe, but I cannot be 100%. People have to understand me. But I'm Brazilian. I'm not English.
Yeah.
So it's this kind of, dancing with the things that you do well and doing more and fixing small things you can fix and accepting the rest and just not being, again, going back to the music. Don't worry, be happy.
Yes. Don't worry, be happy. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to join us on the Being Human podcast. I know I've thoroughly enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Wow. Yeah, what a fascinating topic. It really strikes a chord with me.
Yeah.
As someone that has a tendency to worry, as we've discussed many times in the past, I love this foundational mantra of continually trying to focus on the things that are within my control and trying to let go of the things that I can't influence necessarily on a day-to-day basis. I loved Rodrigo's invitation to really spend time getting to know ourselves. And that, for me anyway, seems like a really good place to start. And then I think perhaps the next logical step for me would be to be a bit more courageous, perhaps, in standing up for who I am, what's important to me, what I believe in. But for me, and importantly for others as well. But I found it fascinating, I have to say.
Yeah, I do as well. And I think what I really took away is that so much of what we value success by, or how we measure success, could really do with a bit of a shake-up and a rethink. Like, I think about, so me's 27 years old. We're kind of in this group of people at the moment who, some people are getting married, some people decide they never want to get married, people are desperate to get on the property ladder, other people have flown around the world and are doing a year's traveling. People are talking about, being in the right job for the right career move to set themselves up for the rest of their life, and all these things that are actually, they're not materialistic all the time, but they've got that material value to them that actually is that what people now should be focusing on, rather than really trying to understand what makes them happy, what they stand for, what's in alignment with themselves. And so actually when you're, catching up with friends that you haven't seen in a while, the question of how's work going could be completely rephrased to make you think in a slightly different way, rather than everything having to be so tangible to an outcome that you might, as Rodrigo said, never have control over, or never get that job because luck doesn't fall in your way, or the right person, you don't meet the right person at the right time. So I think
they are often expectations that have been confected by others as well, rather than truly what we aspire to as individuals. Yeah,
exactly. Part of that, I think, is then not being so obsessed with perfection and having a little bit more flexibility in letting good enough or good or great be enough to go forward and try something and give something a go, or to stop doing something. And it doesn't have to be 100% spot on all of the time. Definitely food for thought for that as a conversation. Well, that brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you so much for listening to the Being Human podcast.
Do hit the follow button on whichever platform you're using so you never miss an episode.
And we'd really love to hear from you. So if you've got any topics that you'd like Jez and me to look into, or you think you'd make a brilliant guest, then please do get in touch.
And if you're curious about the work that we deliver as Just Add Water all over the world to our clients, drop us a line. We'd love to talk to you.
Thanks so much for listening, and see you soon.
You've been listening to the Being Human podcast. Brought to you by Just Add Water. Nurturing individual brilliance, forging collective strength.
I've just got one post-it note on my screen that says tummy in.
I've got to remember no resting bitch face, which is a challenge.
Sorry.
Don't do the weird smile though, because that is uncomfortable as well.
Well, that's not completely destabilised me at all.